Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Soul Device 2 developer update. Now, first things first, everything in this developer update is testing footage. None of this is necessarily final. And this is the 5th developer update in the series. The previous 4 developer updates were about the Soul Device, the Smelt Device, the Ice Device, and the Saline Device, and I would recommend checking those out first, as I will not be covering in this video the specifics of these devices, and instead be going over more specific mechanics about the rest of the game. So for starters, this is the testing room I have alluded to in some of the previous videos that is in my developmental build, kind of a hub of sorts. This door up over this way is the door that leads to the soul testing room. This door over here, this between these metal platforms, is the door that leads to the smelt testing room. Yada yada. It's just kind of built for testing purposes and testing the game. But in this video specifically, I want to go over some of the features that I have also programmed into the game. So this room in itself is much more open air than the other rooms I have shown off before. There's no linearity to this room in particular. The previous ones had a starting point and an ending point. This room is just more open and free roam. And I'll be going around this room later to show off specific things. But before I do so, I do want to mention that all of the graphical things you see in this video, previous videos, and future videos are subject to change. Particularly the background here has a nice cool little parallax effect where the closer mountains are moving more than the back mountains, and these are all just temporarily drawn in things to kind of fill space while I'm developing, because I'm focusing less on the visuals of things and more on the mechanics of things first, just to make sure the game is functional before it looks nice, and looking nice and the polish will come later. As you can see, I've also updated grass and stone to look a little bit nicer than just a single color. But with that out of the way, another thing I want to mention is I have updated lasers. I don't think I talked about dangerous lasers previously, but if I flip this switch, the laser up there will turn on. That laser is pink. And now pink lasers are harmless, but lasers will vary in color between pink and red. And they can do this gradually, or they can just start red or start pink. And red lasers are harmful to the player, and pink lasers are not. And I will get more into that later with another specific mechanic in this room. So before we get into anything else, I want to go over my pause menu that I programmed. So this is the generic pause menu. It's pretty bland right now. It doesn't have any nice looking bells or whistles, but it's fully functional. Up here in the top left, we have the player's UI. And I'll come back to this in a moment. This shows the player's current health, current battery, and then all the devices they currently have unlocked, and all of the functions they'll unlock. So I'll show this off again in a little bit. The current objective is currently just test the game because I don't have any progress set yet. And in the final game, the player will have, this will basically tell the player what they're currently needing to do. So over here on the left, we have material and soul. Now these are 2 collectible materials that the player can get. The player gets material from treasure chests and crates, and the player gets soul from defeating enemies. So over here, if I go this way, you can see that there's an enemy over there. Now if I pull out the smelt device and I shoot them a whole bunch, there, they just died. And so what they just exploded into, the particles that flew over to the player, is soul. So if I pause the game again, you see my soul is now at 605. So another major change I have made since previous developer updates is with player builds. So with this soul build here, this platform used to last 30 seconds, but it now lasts 20. And I'll get into why I made this change very shortly. The same thing with smelt blocks. These will now last 20 seconds instead of 30 seconds. Same with ice, 20 instead of 30. And then with electrification fields, this now lasts 10 seconds instead of 15. And I'll get into why I made that change shortly. Also in the pause menu is the map. The map is not integrated yet because I haven't made the world yet, so it just makes this green screen. And this will also be how the player can access fast travel around the world I'm going to build. But the close button does work. As far as settings go, the music volume, you're currently probably hearing the music I added in post because I might cut this up a little bit and I want the music to transition smoothly. But I will cut that off right now and then slide the music slider. So basically, this changes dynamically with the slider. And songs in background music in the game is based specifically off of the room you're in, the environment you're in. So basically, each kind of environment in the game has its own background music. The music that played right now, and I believe I also used in my first developer update, is a song I wrote called A New Adventure. It's basically more of a cheery, upbeat tune. I'm not quite sure where I'm going to use it yet. It'll either be kind of the opening tune or the credits theme. The tune I used in the second developer update for the Smelt device is the theme for the ice region. It's called Arctic Explorer, or no, it's called A Cold Place. And it's actually the title theme I made for another project I'm working on called Arctic Explorers, which is currently a project on hold. The theme that played in the third developer update is a theme called Earth in Depths. That is the theme of the underground area that's going to be more volcanic. And then the theme that played in the Sailing Device Showcase is a theme called Difficult Terrain. I'm not quite sure where I'm going to use that one yet either, but it is one of my more favorite themes that I've written. Also here, of course, you can change the sound effect volume. This, of course, affects the sound of clicking things in the menu. And then load game, which of course ties to save game, which save game is here on the main menu, as well as quit. Quit closes the game, and it will prompt you. So quit would close the game, or it can go back to the main menu. So a save game, the save right now will say 0% because I haven't integrated what the percent is yet, what the progress is. So these will always say 0%, but in the final version, these will tell you your progress. And you have 3 different save files. So I'm going to go ahead and save 3, save, and resume. So now if I walk over this way and I hit load game, settings, load 3, load, it'll load my progress. And you can see my battery is still empty. And right here is a respawn point. So respawn points are kind of all over the world. There's one over here on top of this elevator. There's one in front of the store here. And basically whenever you touch one, it will update the data in the background, and that will be your respawn point whenever you die or whenever you save and load the game. Now also in settings, we have key bindings. This is how you change your custom controls. So basically you can move left, right, up, and down, jump, the interact key, the function key, the quick build key, what toggles force mode, the pause key, the key that swaps devices, and hotkeys for the 4 main devices. I'm also planning on adding another key and another function that destroys all player builds, because with the Soul device, for instance, you can reflect beams, and if there was a wall between the player and this, I wouldn't be able to erase this. So having a way to quickly get rid of this, so if it was like blocking a laser or something like that was, if I couldn't reach that with the erasure beam and I wanted to get rid of it, I just wouldn't have to wait until it decays. So I am planning on adding that later. So these are the key bindings, and then if you happen to have a really shifty control setup like this, and you just don't really want to deal with this, you can hit default and it'll just reset everything back to default. So targeting reticle, this basically turns the targeting reticle on and off. So I no longer get the targeting reticle where I'm aiming. I prefer to have this on. It makes life really, really nice compared to not having it on, because now the targeting reticle's on, I can see where I'm aiming. And the targeting reticle does reflect off of ice and off of any reflective surface. And as to my testing, it's 100% accurate. And then it changes based on which device you're using. So this one will arc and pick where those are landing. This one is going to pick far away locations, and this one is also going to arc. And force mode is off right now, so if I turn that on by pressing the F key, the targeting reticle will show far away. So like the Smelt device now shoots forcefully, as if the mouse was very far away from the player versus very close. Local health mode. Now this is something because looking in the corner of the screen, I didn't want to, when using the device, glance at the corner of the screen every single time I wanted to check on my HP. So if like I head over here, get rid of these, and if I'm building over here, I don't want to have to look at the corner of the screen and look away from the player to see how much health I have left. So what you can do is you can turn on local health, and this puts a health bar above the player. Now, this is only a health bar if the player has no battery. If you charge your battery, this will instead show the player's battery. And so the battery there took 5 seconds to charge. No matter how much battery the player has, it will always take 5 seconds to charge from empty to full. So I believe that's it. Force mode has a hotkey you can toggle with by default F, but I also put it in the pause menu just as an extra thing that you can click here. So I'll turn that back off. And then yeah, so I've already gone over save and quit. So that is the pause menu. So pretty basic. Most people probably don't get excited over pause menus, but I was very excited to put this together because it took like a day to put together and it was fun. But moving on. So this character here, I've now changed the interact key to appear like this, and it will change to, let me actually plug in my controller real quick and show what happens if I use control inputs. All right. So yeah, if the game realizes that a controller's been plugged in, it will show different requests for things. And the pause menu has full controller support, so I can move around with the arrow key. So you'll notice the mouse is sitting in the middle of the screen, but I'm controlling this with the controller. And I don't have to go all the way down to back. I do have the B key hotkey to go back, and I can turn these up by sliding this around with the left and right on the thumbstick. So yeah, the game does have full controller support, and I'm using the controller to control right now. It's a little harder to control because the right analog stick is keyed into aiming, and the left analog stick is keyed into movement, and so are the movement button, the kind of left, right, up, down buttons. So you can move with the analog stick, you can move with the buttons, and then you aim with the right stick. And now it can be kind of hard to have one thumb on both thumbs on both analog sticks and move at the same time. So I've made it so that by pushing down on the left analog stick, you jump. So you don't have to move your thumb off the right analog stick to the A button, or the lower button on an Xbox controller is jump. So I can instead just push on the left analog stick and I can aim while at the same time moving around. So the right trigger is currently set to the same as the left click, which is build, and the left trigger will erase. And then the shoulder buttons, the front shoulder buttons, are toggle between the devices. You can cycle between these. And my current plan is to make it so that if you push both shoulder buttons, it does the total erasure of all current player builds. I'm still hammering that down on what I want it specifically to do, but the controller is fully integrated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go talk to this person here, and I have full controller support for this menu as well. So I'm going to buy Quick Build, Clear Beam, and Sprout Beam. And then I'm going to swap to the Smelt device, and I'm going to go ahead and buy all these upgrades. And before I go any further, I'm going to go back to the pause menu and show that these upgrades are now showing in the upper left. Every upgrade I purchase will show up here. So if I go to Ice and I buy specifically Ice Eruption, and I go to Sailing and I buy Energy Aura, if I now go to the pause menu, you can see those have populated into their specific slots. So now I will go ahead and go back in and purchase the rest of the upgrades. So now in the pause menu, I have all the upgrades for all devices. So now I have the quick build type button keyed into pressing down on the right click. So as opposed to following the mouse like it does when you're using keyboard and mouse, I now have this that I can move around, and I can use the right trigger to use quick build with the controller. So that's how quick build works with the controller. Another thing is I can toggle force mode with the select key. So you can see over in the top left here, my force mode is toggling on and off. So when that's on, basically the forcefulness of a device is determined by the distance the mouse is from the controller, but I have it programmed, the distance the mouse is from the player. But I have it programmed with the controller so that the forcefulness is dependent on how hard you push down on the trigger. So if you push the trigger all the way down, it will be full forcefulness, but if you just kind of lightly push it, it won't be very forceful at all. So it's a little bit harder to aim this way with the controller, but it was the best I could do just thinking about it. And this is subject to change, as is everything. And so you might have seen while I was using the right click or alt function grind on those that these crates begun to shake. And that is intentional. Crates are something that you can grind up with the smelt device. So if I grind this up, you'll see it shake and it'll break. And out of that comes material. So if I pause the game, you'll notice my material has now gone up a little bit. It's gone way down because I bought all the upgrades, but the material is now 2 higher than it was, and each of these crates contains 2 material. And the amount of time it takes to break the crate is dependent on its size. So now that I've broken all those up, you can see my materials now up by 8 2 per crate. I can swap between device functions using the X key. So you'll see that I now have Sprout Beam selected. And then on this, I can do Heat Wave. And then on the Icicle, I can do Icicle Sprout. And so, yeah. And then the B key is the Interact key. So that's how I access menus and whatnot and close menus. And then the Y key is the equivalent of the middle click on the mouse. So just like pushing down on the right analog stick, you can also use the Y key. These are subject to change. So I might make the destroy all pushing down on the right analog stick instead. I just need to figure out how that's going to go on. It's ongoing development. So at this point, I'm going to unplug my controller and continue with mouse and keyboard as I show off the rest of the things I have to show off today. So in the past, I've shown off this menu where you purchase all your upgrades. So what I'm going to show off next is the special upgrades menu. This is a recent addition to the game, but I've had it planned for a while. So you can purchase specific upgrades for all of your devices, but you can also, after you get the smelt device, have access to the special upgrades menu. And so what this is these are special things you can purchase for the player that also cost material. This is the same material you need to upgrade devices. After you get the smelt device, you'll have access to this menu and specifically the battery, which is what you need to access this first, because the first special upgrade is upgrading your battery capacity. So upgrading this, if I purchase this and we close the menu, you'll see that my battery has increased. Each one of these upgrades upgrades the battery capacity by 5 to a maximum of 50. So this basically allows the player to have a lot more battery capacity. And you can see this uses very slowly compared to HP. And another thing is, as I mentioned earlier, the battery will always charge in 5 seconds. So it's charging a lot faster now than it was before because it's charging 20% every second, regardless of what the maximum is. So that's battery upgrades. Next is the jet device. Now the jet device was a device in the first game that had 2 upgrades, specifically the glider and the double jump. And in the first game they were independent and the glider was easier to get. What the glider did is it allowed you to slow your fall, and then it had the thruster, which would, in the first game, it allowed you a double jump. Now I've changed the way this works in this game. So you need to get the glider first, which repairs the jet device's glider wings, because the player, if you're familiar with the first game, already has the jet device pack on person. That's what's behind the player on his torso. That is the jet device. So in the story of the game follows the first ending the player can get in the first game, where he takes the escape pod off of the ship and will be crash landing on this planet. And that breaks every device on his person. That's why he needs to re-unlock all the devices, and that's why the jet device doesn't work. But if I repair the jet device, so I now have the glider wings. So what I can do is I can jump and I can glide down. This will slow my descents whenever I'm falling. It basically sets a maximum vertical speed the player can fall at, and as long as you're doing this, it won't negate fall damage, but you'll notice my fall damage meter, as it starts to fill up, this will lock it at a specific part, and as long as it's below that white bar, the player won't take fall damage. Now, you can fall down a really long way and then just deploy the wings right at the end and still not take fall damage. It's kind of up to you how you play. But the other thing about the glider is that it doesn't use any energy to use. It just deploys the wings and it naturally slows your fall. So it's completely free to use, and it helps negate fall damage. Now, of course, the second upgrade is the jet thruster. Now, this is a really big upgrade, and it costs 30 on its own, but of course requires the previous 20 cost for a total of 50 material. So I'm going to purchase that. And what this does is basically, I'm moving around the play around with the WASD keys. And so A and D move left and right, and in the first game, S crouched and W aimed up. But in this game, you don't need to aim using the W and S keys, you aim with the mouse. So what I've done instead is S drops through platforms, and W doesn't do anything on the ground. But once you have unlocked the thruster, once you're airborne and you press W, the thruster applies, and you will take flight. And what this does is this allows the player semi-infinite flight. Now, the first thing you'll notice is this is costing energy. And the trade-off is because this is a platformer game, the jetpack thruster is extremely expensive to use. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to fly up into this wall here, and you'll see just how fast my battery drains, and then my health. I still haven't implemented death, that's why the health is just cycling. But compared to the Soul device, which uses it that quickly, the thruster uses it much faster. So, for instance, if I wanted to get up here, that just drained most of my current HP, versus if I just did a Soul build and jumped twice, that took very little. So it allows the player more freedom of movement, but at a much higher cost. It's mainly to be used if the player has battery. So I'm going to drain power from this door. And it's important to remember that the battery is 10 times more efficient than the health bar. And that's, again, why the battery is upgradable. So this is now maxed out. There are no more upgrades to purchase on this. So next is the life scanner. So basically, this is something you could already see on by default in previous entries, is that this allows you to see the health on living entities, being enemies of, well, organic type. So turrets, for instance, do not count as living enemies. Now, I might change this to allow seeing the health of turrets in the final version. I haven't decided yet. But basically what this does is if I go find an enemy, and I know there's one up here. So now this enemy is contained in this area, and I can now see their health bar. I couldn't see the health bar on the enemy earlier, but I can now see theirs. So this basically shows you how much health enemies have. The mileage you get out of this might vary, but I've tried to make it so that all the upgrades you get are balanced. Now, this last one here is the lifeguard, and I'm actually not going to buy this just yet because it's very annoying for testing purposes. Basically, as I've shown, if I use the jet thruster and do that, oh, I just died again. And like if I use most of my health, and then if I'm using the soul device, oh, I just died again. So it can be very annoying early game if you're not paying attention to your health and you'll die, and I'm planning on being generous at the respawn points, and there won't be any other penalties for dying other than going back and respawning. But basically what the lifeguard does is it prevents you from using HP you don't have. So I'll probably show this off later, but right there as my HP reaches near 0, it would basically stop me from building anymore and just completely cut off my ability to build in order to prevent me from dying. So that's basically all you need to know about the special upgrades menu, but there's one other special upgrades menu, which is this altar here. Now this is the soul upgrade altar. Now what this does is this has different types of soul upgrades, which have various levels, and now each of these do a different thing. So first of all is the obvious one, Fortified Soul, which increases maximum health. Now this is similar to the battery. You can see my health above the menu right here. This costs soul to use instead of material. If I upgrade this, you'll notice my health goes up. And the health starts at 25, and it increases by 5 every time you purchase Fortified Soul, and this goes up to level 15. So if I buy all 15 levels, this is now max, and I now have 100 HP. This is the maximum HP the player's allowed in the game. The player will not be starting out with 600 soul. This is just for testing purposes. You get 5 soul every time you kill a standard enemy, although I can vary that per enemy. I might vary tougher enemies to have more soul. I might give turrets 1 soul fragment when you kill them. I haven't decided yet. It's up in the air. So durable soul is actually the reasoning I nerfed the build time on player builds from 30 seconds to 20 seconds and energy fields from 15 to 10. Because when I was testing the sailing device in the sailing device room, and I found that the energy fields, 15 seconds didn't feel like a lot of time while I was moving around. So they now last 10 seconds by default, and the platforms last 20 seconds. So these together will last 30 seconds. But I can change that with this. So durable soul decreases, it says increase solar build longevity, and what that means is that things decay slower. So if I upgrade this to level 5, basically what this does is for every level, it increases the time that something you make lasts by 10% of the base time. So this lasts for 20 seconds, and I just upgraded it 5 times. It now lasts 50% longer. Well, 50% of 20 seconds is 10 seconds. So this, at level 5, this now lasts 30 seconds. And this now lasts 15 seconds. So at level 5, it's basically the same as what it used to be. And now I figured, you know, why stop there? Let's reward the player for defeating a lot of enemies, getting a lot of soul. This goes all the way up to level 20. So what this does is anything the player builds now, this soul wall will now last 60 seconds, a full minute. And any energy fields the player makes will last 30 seconds. And I can refresh this as much as I want. You can see that this only takes 10 HP, and in a few seconds it's already recharged. And while the player build is energized, it won't decay. So for 30 seconds, this energy field will last, and this soul build will not decay. It will last a full minute outside of being energized. Now this is the same with ice. If I put ice around here, this ice here is going to last a full minute. So ice over here, 1 full minute. So ice also has a standard build time of 20 seconds, but with the soul upgrade of durable soul, it will now last a full minute. Same thing with smelt shots. These will last a full minute. And all sorts of things that the player can build will now last significantly longer. And the last upgrade here is Violent Soul. Now this increases damage to enemies, and I haven't decided the specific effects yet aside from direct damage. So direct damage is only dealt in 2 ways right now, with the smelt device and with the ice device. So the smelt device shoots out these smelt shots that when it hits an enemy, deals direct damage. It doesn't do anything else to them other than deal damage, and it's the fastest way to deal damage to an enemy. And then with the ice device has 2 effects on an enemy. When it hits them, it deals less direct damage than the smelt device, but it also inflicts freeze. And if the freeze value on an enemy gets high enough, they will become frozen. And so basically Violent Soul goes up to level 10. So I'm going to increase this to level 10. And this basically, at level 10, it's what it used to be. So 10 shots from the smelt device will kill an enemy at level 10, but it'll take 20 at level 0. So if I go up here and find this enemy here, beep, beep. Oh, whoops. That's a turret over there. I'll get to what that does in a moment. So if I turn on force mode and I just shoot in this enemy here, there we go. And I killed them in 10 shots. And another thing you will have noticed is that I didn't take any damage from that enemy because smelt shots block bullets. They can block up to 3 bullets before the shot itself is deleted. And against this type of enemy, that's no problem because they can't lob off 3 bullets in the time that the smelt shot takes to hit them. There's another enemy I'll be showing off shortly that's much more of a problem against. So real quick right here, I want to point this out. This is a treasure chest. Like crates, grinding up crates gives a small amount of material that the player can use, as well as some battery. Grinding up this rock here, you can see it charges my battery just a little bit. But what this chest does, if I open it, it will give me a certain amount of material. This one has 5 in it, so my material has gone up by 5. So that covers everything from the special upgrades menu and the soul upgrades menu. So I'll go ahead and upgrade my battery a bunch more, and that's now the max level, and I have 50 battery now and 100 HP. This is the max you can get in the base game. And then I have all of the soul levels, and I haven't decided if I want to add anything else to here yet. There are other upgrades that the player can get that I haven't implemented yet that will be rewards for completing other challenges in the game. Optional challenges aside from the main story. So next, I'll go into what is in this room. So I mentioned earlier that the W and S keys don't really do anything. So what this is an elevator. So the switch I just flipped unlocks this door. It's currently unpowered, so I'm going to power that with that. And then I'm going to go up and depower it. So W and S, I believe I have pointed out in a different video, control elevators. So if I'm in the air and press W, it activates the thruster. But if I'm on the ground, W and S control elevators. And S also drops through platforms. So this moves the elevator up, and then I can go down. And another thing I have recently implemented are these orange switches here. Now, the color orange is chosen arbitrarily, but picked specifically to match the first game, where this is an elevator call button. So pushing it, and the elevator will come to me, or specifically to the floor that this is associated with. And I've also programmed that the elevator will not crush the player. It will wait nicely for the player to move out of the way. And then if I push the button, elevator comes back up. So this over here is a crystal wall. This is just a nicely looking crystal. It performs like a crystal. That's about all I have to say for that. It's just a testing build. I have a generic crystal switch here that activates this laser, which turns off that. This room is mainly just built for testing different things. And so this door here actually leads to the sailing testing room and is, of course, designed to only be accessible with the sailing device. You need the sailing device to unlock this so that you can get in here and get to the room. Oh, and I forgot to mention, the elevator here leads down into the ice device room. To access it, you need to ice that surface, and then you can do a soul build like this, and then do... Oh, I missed. Drat. It's this surface, and there. This is a green receiver here. I can now flip the switch, which permanently unlocks these doors. And there we go. Sweet. So that is all the testing rooms and how to get to them. This is just kind of a note for my beta testers. So this over here is a different type of turret. In the past, I believe I've only shown... Actually, I believe I've shown off the laser turret before. So this is the laser turret. And I believe I showed this off in the ice device room. So the laser turret, its laser now turns red when it's deadly instead of purple. I figured the visual storytelling's probably a lot better, and it's more in tune with what it was in the first game. So if I stand here, you'll notice my health begins to go down rather rapidly as the laser turns red. And once it's really intense, it's just dealing massive damage. And if I can aim this just right, the shield itself doesn't reflect perfectly just yet, but if I can aim this just right there, I can kill the turret with its own laser. All right, so moving along, I'm going to adventure over to the left here a little bit and glide down here. This is what lava looks like now. It's just a recolored version of rock. That is definitely going to change. Just playing around to see what different things look like. So I'm going to climb up this wall here. This is another upgrade station for the device upgrades, just so my testers don't have to walk everywhere if they want to open stuff. So this over here is a cave. So this has its own background, independent of the background to the room. It's basically just a nice little aesthetic for building. It's got a boulder in the way that the player can grind up. Oh. Well, I guess that rock didn't have a lot of HP. But let's see, I'm just gonna go ahead and fly up. So up here we have another type of turret. This here is the rocket turret. So what this does is it shoots a rocket at the player, and wherever the rocket hits, it will create an explosion. Now this explosion is decently easy to dodge, but if it hits the player, it will deal a decent amount of damage. Ow, so it just hit me. And it also makes the camera shake to really give that impact feel. It has a 5-second reload time. And you can see just how much damage it's doing. So it does about, I don't know, a quarter of my health when I'm at max. It's meant to be, a lot of the enemies are meant to be much more detrimental early on, so you have to think your way around them. I can, of course, destroy this instantly with the smelt device. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to block its shots with smelt shots. So basically, the shots from the smelt device can intercept the rockets and destroy them on their way to the player. I'm thinking about adding some sort of telegraph to let the player know when it's about to fire. So if I can sidestep this, I can show that it's not too hard to dodge. Yep, so decently easy to dodge. So I'm gonna go ahead and just kill this thing. There we go, it's dead. So like all the other turrets, it just kind of turns black and white when it dies. So this looks like it's nice and open air above, but I actually have an invisible wall here to prevent players from going any further. I'm not planning on doing this in the actual game, as I will have death implemented, and there will be a physical limit of how high you can go by your HP alone. And I'll also have barriers on the left and right of the area, or transition zones to go to different areas for different things. Now this leads to another testing room that I won't be going into right now. So I can jump between these barriers and head over here. This is a regular turret. Whoops. Oh, I just took fall damage because I didn't deploy the wings fast enough. So this is a regular turret. It just shoots bullets. Pretty easy to sidestep and dodge, but if I just stand still, it will deal damage to me. So yeah, when I have this much health, it's not quite as detrimental. It deals about, I don't know, 20 health per hit. So I can block the bullets with the smelt device, and I can kill it pretty easily with the smelt device. These suckers are meant to be more of a nuisance early on, that the player can deal with much more easily later. So in previous videos, I've already touched on yellow lasers, so I'm going to move on past this up some more. So up here, we have a type of environmental hazard. these are hot and cold platforms. Now what these do is if the player stands on them, the player will take damage over time. So basically the way you deal with these is with cold or hot devices respectively. So hot platforms apply cold, cold platforms apply hot, and you'll see these will slowly start to heat up again. But until they do, and until they are fully heated, and I believe it takes about 40 seconds for them to do so, the player can safely stand on them. Additionally, if the player builds off of these, you will notice that this begins to decay rapidly. Much more rapidly than the other platforms. So this normally takes 60 seconds to decay with my current levels, but it's currently decaying significantly faster. Before that goes, I want that platform to exist, so I'm going to energize it. And what I'm going to do is you can, of course, use standard whatever, anything hot to work, but I'm going to use the heat ray because that's very cheap and it pierces through walls. So what these are cold and hot emitters. So if I touch these, I take damage. These basically are kind of traps to be used in different dungeon-esque type places. And if I build on them while they are active, so these can be permanently on, permanently off, or intermittent, as these are. And you can see while these are on that my build is taking massive damage very quickly and is going to be pierced straight through very shortly. Now this will go through it very quickly if I didn't have the durable soul upgrades to make my builds last longer. Yeah, so these will be in some of the dungeons in the game that the player will have to deal with. The ground is hot again, or cold again, so I'm going to heat it up. And I'm going to use the ranged function to get rid of those. Glide on over. Do that. Do that. And you can use the wings just a touch to supplement. All right, so next thing I want to cover is over here. So I'm going to build over there. So this enemy here is not your regular gunner. This is a heavy gunner. So the difference here is that the heavy gunner shoots really, really fast. So you can see right now he's shooting just a ton of bullets. And every time one of those bullets hits the ice shield, it has to regenerate. So you can see my health is just rapidly going down with the ice shield. So he just ran out of bullets. He has a clip size of 400 and a reload time of, I believe, about 5 seconds. So if I bring the shield down, you can see he's just dealing massive damage. So this is with the shield. What I can do instead is I can use the energy shield, the sailing device. And so this just drains my health passively, really slowly, which is really nice. And of course, this is meant to be used with other devices, but I can't do that right now because my battery isn't charged. If I change device, my energy shield is immediately going down. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go find myself something powered and sap power into it. So I believe, yeah, this is not default powered. This door is. So I'm just going to take 5 seconds real quick and charge this up. And because I want to have battery when I get up there, I'm going to try not using flight, and the soul device is hands down the cheapest way to get up to things. All right, now I don't want him to see me, so I'm gonna do... There we go. Oh gosh, he got upset. I don't know what upset him, but he is upset. Anyhow, so I can get rid of that, and oh gosh, he is upset. But anyways, I now have battery, so I can turn this on, and I can swap to the smelt device, and I can now just shoot him. He hasn't seen me. I'm gonna turn this off for now, and I'm going to build over to him. I'm still having minor issues with the beams and clipping through walls. I changed it to a system that worked fully all the time, but it got really laggy, so I'm currently testing out a hybrid system. And through testing, I do believe I'll eventually have it at a point where it no longer pierces things and it doesn't make the game lag horrendously. So obviously I could just use the barrier and use barrier and power barrier and just do that. Now he can't see me because he's permanently behind a wall. What I'm going to do instead is activate this, delete that, and now this shield slowly drains my power and he can't do a thing to me. This shield protects me from all physical projectiles. So what I can do instead is I can just whip out soul device, I tried the smelt device, and what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to fire that over there. I'm going to build here, and then I'm going to actually freeze this sucker in place. Come on. No? Okay. I might be having issues. But if I touch him, he's actually going to start slowly losing HP. Oh, I just ran out of battery. Oops. So I'm gonna hit him with that, and that is now stuck to him. He's now paralyzed, and I'm just gonna finish the job with Smelt Shotgun, and he is dead. So yeah, there are 4 types of gunners programmed right now. There's only 2 types in all of my testing rooms, being the standard and the rapid fire, but I also have snipers programmed, which deal more damage and have a much larger visible range, and shotgunners, which have a much shorter range but shoot out multiple bullets at a time and can deal massive damage to the player at short range. So the last thing I have programmed over here is a little testing room. This is a rapid fire turret. So the rapid fire gunner I just showed off, this is the turret form of it. So if I bring out my shield, it shoots lots and lots of bullets. So yeah, it of course has a wind-up time of about 2 seconds once it sees the player. And turrets are very easily taken down. I can just stun it with power, and then I can kill it. So these suckers are definitely going to be a nuisance early on until the player gets a hold of some of the later devices. But once the player does, the player's just kind of expected to be able to deal with these things. And so from here, there is a green receiver on this wall here, and 2 doors with 2 treasure chests. So now what I can do is I want this laser on that receiver. So I'm going to turn on this laser myself, and I'm going to build myself a nice little wall here. And I'm going to reflect the laser down here, up here. And do this. And this is a nice little pink laser. There we go. So this laser doesn't actually, it's not going to be a problem for me if it overlaps. So I'm going to flip this switch, which permanently unlocks both these doors. Going to get rid of that. And you can see that because the switch is flipped, I no longer need the laser on the receiver. Come up here and open this crate, and I get my nice little reward of material. And these are the kinds of puzzles the player's just going to find strewn throughout the world, where they'll get material as kind of a reward for exploring, kind of like Korok seeds in Breath of the Wild. I wanted the world to have some sort of aspect of exploration and reward the player with some sort of upgrade material that they can use to basically purchase whatever upgrades they want. Because with the exception of soul upgrades, all other upgrades are purchased with the material, and they can buy just whatever they want. You can buy any of these. The lifeguard is particularly important in the actual game. You can buy any of the upgrades that you can afford for any of the devices you've unlocked in any order, which will also increase the number of puzzles you can solve, because some puzzles will be designed around having specific upgrades. Although most puzzles can be designed without things, like most of these are commodities. And most puzzles can be designed or solved without using specific things. They just make certain puzzles easier. So yeah, that about covers all I want to showcase today. So thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed this developer update. I know that it is a long one, good gracious. But that basically gets caught up to where I currently am in the developmental cycle. There might be a few more things, but my developer updates might be a bit more few and far between, as I only really want to do an update when I have major stuff to talk about. And I'm actually getting decently close to completing the engine for the game, with the exception of I want to make a greater selection of enemy varieties that the player can use their devices against and have to deal with. Maybe some more puzzle mechanics to use and solve that mesh well with other ones. But yeah, my developer updates will be probably a bit more sparse from now on. And yeah, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any feedback on the game, please let me know. I like to hear what people have to say, and more than anything, I want this game to be fun to play is my end goal. So let me know if you have any suggestions, anything you'd like to see, anything that doesn't look fun. And yeah, thank you for your time.